This is a 2002 Honda Civic. The suspension needs checked out. First thing I want to do is raise the front of the car off the ground. I was looking at the driver's side area. Looks like the front bushings on both sides have a problem and the sway bar links broke. See, the struts probably blowed out. Let's see if the lower ball joint has any movement in it. Yeah, that's a problem for this front lower control arm bushing. That's where it should be sitting approximately. Not down here where it can hit the frame ear. If you haven't got the gizmo that pops these lower ball joints, I just took a cheap tie rod separator and ground the side down some and left these. And take the nut off, flip it upside down so the castle on the top is pointing out. Stick that in there. And then I'll stick a piece of metal in there so it doesn't tear up the back of the nut or the head of the thing. And screw that down. This has that weird clip that goes through the slot and then hooks on the things. You really don't want to tear them up. Well, now that's loose, I'll go ahead and take this control arm bolt out and the other one. It'll be easier to get the control arm bolts and the control arm out if you remove this inner plastic. Be sure, as long as you got this axle hooked to the spindle, to keep the spindle pushed in so it don't pull the CVC joints apart on the axle, or it'll ruin it. I've always kept this pushed in as I was working it around. It's not past to where the ball joint mounts. I took the bolts out, pulled the control arm out. Just the front bushing's bad. And now I need to take what's left of this sway bar link bolt out. I'll clamp on, knock this plastic off and clamp on that with a pair of vice grips, and then put an impact on this nut behind it. This sway bar link was broken off one side. I just took a hammer and knocked it off the other side. Get onto the ball with a pair of vice grips. This is the only way to take them out. It's a 14 millimeter. New sway bar link. Took a Sawzall custom reliefs out of this bushing. Now it's just a matter of using the air chisel. Like that. Good to me. This bushing's even on both sides. If you're inclined to, you might either tack weld it 2 or 3 places on either side, or stake it out. But the stress isn't really up and down, it's side to side, so it's not a super problem. Turn the steering wheel all the way to the left before you start sticking the control arm in there. Give you a little more clearance. Okay, the new bushing's pressed in there. Now I'm going to put the control arm back in around all this mess. I stuck the first bushing in there and stuck the bolt up through it. The new one. The frame bolt installed, or it's just threaded into it. It's not tight or anything. I'll just push it down around all this spindle and lower ball joint. It just flexes there, and it can rotate since it's not tightened down. And I'll just push it up into the back bushing socket. Stabilizer bar is kind of in the way a little bit. Anyway, that's how it's going to go. Let's take a screwdriver and hammer and tap that into the back one. The front one's already installed in. Let's make sure these holes are clean and not oblong and the ball joint's not shot. This one's still pretty tight, even with 200,000 miles on it. Now let me stick that stuff in there. You can tighten your front ball joint down. I'll leave the back one completely loose. enough that the bushing will hinge inside of it. I got the bushing will move independent of the center. So I need to put the weight of the car on this control arm and then tighten that bushing down so it's not ripping it. I turn the steering wheel back almost straight ahead to get the ball joint to settle down in there so I can torque it down to about 50 foot-pounds. This ball joint went to 47 foot-pounds. The next slot to line that pin up. I put the weight of the car on this jack, it's holding the wheel at the right height. Now I'm going to tighten this control arm bushing in the back. Lower control arm bolts torqued to 61 foot-pounds. Lower ball joint tightens to 43 to 51 foot-pounds. The lug nuts are 80 foot-pounds. And if you take the axle nut off, it's 134 foot-pounds. These are the .14 by 1.5 damper bolts, or strut mount bolts I call them. They torque to 76 foot-pounds if you take them loose. The tie rod end's 32 foot-pounds if you have to take it loose. I just stuck a screwdriver into the box where the control arm goes, lift it up on the ball joint to align the sway bar link. These aftermarket ones have nuts on the back you can put a 14mm wrench on and then hit the other side with an impact. That's convenient. Yeah, that's installed. Sway bar link. Put your plastic back on. Then your wheel and lug nuts. You'll be done with one side. Okay, on this passenger side, I'm going to raise the car, set it on a jack stand, about 14 inches off the ground. And take your front bolt loose, your ball joint, and the sway bar link. Have to use a 6mm in the center on a ratchet out the hex head, and then a gear wrench. Stick your gear wrench on and your hex head in the end of it to hold it. If you're reusing the link, if you're putting a new link in, just cut the stupid things off. And then take this back bolt loose. This one got stuck and I had to take a sawzall and cut it in half. So I have to find another bolt for it. The whole tube was frozen to the bolt and I've tried various things to get it loose. It was just burning up too much time. You can bungee cord this front strut forward. Kind of keep it out of your way while you're getting this bolt off. I'm using a gear wrench on it. At least the tube's not stuck on this one. I took the front one out so I could end the sway bar link off ready, and I can get some room to maneuver stuff around with it flopping around. Yeah, the passenger side install is similar to the driver's side. except the gear wrench on this back bolt. You have to use the gear wrench to get to this back bolt, pretty much, where you can get to the bolt with an impact on the other side.